My name is Alex Mars. If you don't know me, what's up? I am the student leadership coordinator here at the Inn, and I really love my job. I love what I do. I love this community, and it's really cool to be up here. I actually haven't spoken at the Inn since April of 2019. Yes. Really wild. Pre-pandemic days. It was another era. So it's actually been almost 3 years to the day since I've been up here with you all. I was an intern the last time I spoke. I loved my intern experience in 2018 and 2019 with Mary Grace. I see her walking down. We were interns together. You can imagine that was a fun time. And after my intern year, I actually moved down to California. I lived in Los Angeles, in California, yes. And then after a year in LA, I moved to Orange County and lived in a town called Costa Mesa, California. And I really loved my time down in California. Some big things happened for me in my life while I was down in California. I actually got married while I was in California. I did. My beautiful wife is in the room tonight, right there. What's up, sweet girl? Yes. Can we get a photo of my wife and I, please? Yes. Oh! Woo! Yes. I didn't know we were gonna get the wedding photo right away. Okay, hit it one more. What else we got? Oh! Oh! Precious. Yeah, one more. Oh! Yes. Just in case y'all didn't see the wedding dress close enough the first time. Look how beautiful she is. Oh, that's my girl. Okay, take that down. You're gonna distract me, brother. Yeah. Put it down. I gotta dial in right now. That actually leads me to something I'm learning about myself right now, as someone who has gone through the change of single man to engaged man to married man. In the age-old question of whether or not you are fight or flight, I have actually learned that I am flight. I have learned that actually. Flight/flinch is what I am. And I've learned that about myself as a married man. And it's really funny because I kind of thought that I was like a gangster, like kind of tough. And then I got married and realized I'm actually just kind of soft. And I'm gonna tell you why. Yeah, I'm gonna tell you why. There are times where Ashley will be like really sweet and like come up to me and be like, hey, sweetie. And I'm like, oh. And I kind of like sometimes still am getting used to the fact that we live together. And it's really silly, but she'll be so kind about it. And be like, hi, sweet, oh, wait. And I flinch all the time. And it still makes me scared. Even to the point that if I'm by myself in the house and I hear like the key unlock, like I hear the jingle, I'm like, who's coming in the house? Like I get kind of low-key a little scared. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm married. It's Ashley. So I am learning that about myself tonight. And tonight's gonna be a good night, people. There's a lot of fun stuff going on. It was just Easter on Sunday. Yes, he is risen. Oh my gosh, that's great feedback. It's the NBA playoffs happening right now. Yes. Go Spurs, that's right. Wow, no Spurs love. That's okay. The Spurs aren't even in the playoffs. That's all right. And tonight is also a good night because we got something special tonight. We're gonna be talking about courage. Courage is the word of the evening. And we're gonna do that by looking at the life of a gentleman named Joshua. So we're gonna give a little context for who Joshua is. Joshua is a dude who was placed with the task of succeeding Moses. And Moses, as some of us may know, is this incredible leader who led his people, the Israelites, out of captivity in Egypt. And now Moses is getting really old, and his time has passed, and it's time for a new leader to take control. And so Joshua is that new leader. So that's where we're gonna start off in just a second. Before we do, I wanna say one thing. There have been speakers up here in the weeks prior to me being up here who have asked for audience participation in very specific ways. And I would like to hop on that train myself tonight. So one thing I really like, before I get into it, I have a really important question. Where are all my cowgirls and cowboys in the room? Oh, yes. Come on. That's a great sign. It really is gonna be a good night. Okay, here's one thing I like. If you hear me say something, and it's just stirring something in your soul way down deep, and you don't know how else to respond, I want you to come to me with a yeehaw, hallelujah. Can you do that for me? Yes. Okay, let me hear it. Yeah, let me hear it. It's good. Come on. Yeehaw, hallelujah. Yes. Amen. That's my favorite one. And I have one more that's actually even more important than that one. Okay, this one is really important for tonight. Periodically, in the next 30 minutes, I'm going to be asking you, hey, how are you feeling? How are you feeling right now? And normally if I ask you that question, any response is valid. Any response. But tonight, there's only one appropriate response. When I ask you the question, how you feeling? I need you to say this word and this word only. Dangerous. Okay, we're gonna try this, and we're gonna try this all together. Are you ready? Hey, how we feeling tonight? Oh my gosh, okay. And with that, let's tap in. Will you pray with me? Whew. Lord God, this is gonna be a good night. Thank you so much for everyone in this room. Lord, be present with us. Show us your love for us and direct us toward strength and courage that is rooted in you, Lord. We're so glad to be here in your presence. And you can open your eyes, and we're going to finish this prayer together with an activity. I want everyone to just put your hand on your head, if you will, for me. Love it. And repeat after me. We're going to say, God is bigger than this. Amen. With that, let's tap in. Okay, let's hit some scripture. Hey, thank you, Sam. Deuteronomy 31, 7 and 8. Then Moses summoned Joshua and said to him in the presence of all Israel, be strong and courageous, for you must go with this people into the land that the Lord swore to their ancestors to give them, and you must divide it among them as their inheritance. The Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. That's a good word. Okay, give me one more, Sam. Love it. In between these two passages, all that has really happened is that Moses has died, okay? So now, after the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord said to Joshua, son of Nun, Moses' aide, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now then, you and all these people get ready to cross the Jordan River into the land I am about to give to them, to the Israelites. I will give you every place where you set your foot, as I promised Moses. Your territory will extend from the desert to Lebanon and from the great river, the Euphrates, all the Hittite country to the Mediterranean Sea in the west. No one will be able to stand against you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Be strong and courageous, because you will lead these people to inherit the land I swore to their ancestors to give them. Thank you, Sam. So, a little bit of context. Again, Moses is the leader of the Israelites. And not only is Moses the leader, but Moses is actually at this point in life probably and arguably maybe the greatest person who's ever lived, literally, right? Moses is a legend. Moses went toe-to-toe with Pharaoh, and Moses got his people up out of slavery and into the wilderness. And they are on a trek through the promised land. And some of us may know this really famous story of while the Exodus is happening, and Moses is leading his people out of captivity in Egypt, something really cool happens, and they have to cross this sea, and Moses actually plants his staff, and the sea literally splits in two. It's really wild. We actually have a photo of this. Put this up. Yes, that's what it looked like. That was like a first-hand photo of what was happening. Lightning was striking. It was wild. And as you can imagine, people are just really, really surprised at what's going on. Whoa, this has never happened before, right? I have this photo up here because I want us to have a visual for the person that Joshua is tasked with succeeding. It's this dude, right? This person is like the Michelle Obama of leaders, okay? Just incredible, right? That's a comparison that I feel really good about. The Michelle Obama of leaders at this point, and that is the person that Joshua has to succeed, okay? And even though the Lord is saying, hey, listen, I'm gonna be with you, be strong and courageous, those are still some pretty big shoes to fill, I would say. And so, as you can imagine, Joshua would have to press in to courage in the danger of replacing an incredible leader. And that brings us to our first point tonight, which is that courage is necessary for danger. And in order to do that, we're gonna define the danger. So when you hear me say tonight that I'm feeling dangerous, a lot of the time that can mean like this like physical, like kind of badass, like adrenaline danger, right? Like it can mean that. But tonight what I'm focusing on is actually a little more of a relational, emotional danger. And I think we experience relational and emotional danger in mainly two different ways. The first way is when we step into unfamiliar territory. When we step into something brand new to us that we've never experienced before, we actually don't really have a roadmap or anything to compare it to. And in that, it can be a little scary for us because there's nothing that we can compare it to. It's totally brand new. And thus, there's potential for things to go bad because we've never actually been where we are before. And that's something that makes change really difficult, which is the series that we're in, by the way, is change. And that's something that can make change really hard. The second place that we experience danger can be when we're stepping into places that we actually have been hurt in the past. When we're stepping into places where we've been wounded in the past, or maybe we've been told we aren't good enough in the past, or we faced rejection in the past. That's a little more of the danger that I'm talking about tonight, is a relational, emotional danger, which I think, in my opinion, is just as dangerous, if not more, than like a physical danger. And I want to test this hypothesis out tonight. So I'm going to need a little feedback. You guys have been great already. This is going to be another opportunity to tap in. Just let me know, who of you are maybe more afraid of, let's say, like heights or rejection? Like, what do you feel? High? Oh, someone's super afraid of heights. Give it to me. Like, what actually? Rejection, okay. We do have some people afraid of heights. That's valid, that's real. Okay, we'll do another one. We'll do one more. Okay. Skydiving, it's kind of like the heights one. Skydiving or intimacy and commitment. I don't know. Some people said commit, right? That can be scary for us. So you get my point. The emotional and relational danger is just as scary a lot of the time as the physical danger. And that's very valid. And you need courage to face both of those dangers in your life. And I want to share something right now that's probably going to be really disappointing to all of you. Yeah. We were having a good night until right now. Having courage does not actually guarantee you success. That's tough, but it's true. Having courage does not actually guarantee you success. Having courage, contrarily, actually guarantees you that you will fail. Because we don't actually need courage for the spaces that are comfortable to us. We need courage for dangerous places, okay? We don't need courage for comfortable places. We need courage for the places that are really dangerous. Buckets. Yeah, buckets. Oh, buckets is a good one too. That's nice. Thanks, Riley. We're gonna test this out again. We probably don't need too much courage to pop popcorn and watch Netflix. Like, how much courage does that take? Like a minimal amount of courage. Not too much. How much courage would it take us to pop popcorn and watch Netflix and invite that special someone to come kick it with us while we do? Oh, yeah. What? Yo, my guy Sam. I'm trying to focus, brother. Come on, man. I'm in the talk right now. Oh my gosh. Sam is coming for my neck, dude. I told you you were going to distract me, bro. My gosh. It takes courage. It takes courage to ask that special someone into an environment where otherwise it actually wouldn't take too much courage, right? We don't need courage for easy spaces. We need courage for tough spaces. I have felt this a couple different times in my life. One time in particular, after my internship experience here at the Inn, as I just alluded to a minute ago, I moved down to LA. And when I moved to Los Angeles, I didn't know what exactly I wanted to do for work. I knew that I wouldn't find a community or a job like I had right here at the Inn. And so I was thinking to myself, like, what am I gonna do? And one thing about me, I really love motorcycles. Any motorcycle enthusiasts among us tonight? Wow, yes. Only me and Mary Grace in her dreams. I love it. Okay, we're gonna get you on there, MG. I decide, out of my love for motorcycles, that maybe I could turn this into a job. Maybe I could actually get some experience somewhere, get my hands dirty, and learn a little bit about motorcycles and do that for a job. So in about the span of a week, I decide I'm gonna go drop in person and visit people at these motorcycle companies and just ask for a job, okay? And after about a week of doing this, one place actually gets back to me. And so I start working at this motorcycle shop down in LA. And I do have to say, I was feeling so dangerous. Oh my gosh. I love bikes so much, and I was like, oh, I work at a freaking motorcycle garage. When people would ask me, hey, what do you do for work? I work at a motorcycle shop. Like, I felt so cool, right? This was a dream come true for me. I even had a knife that I would keep like right here on my waist that was like really important for work, but I would wear it like outside of work. So I'm like, hey, does anyone have a knife? Yeah, I got you. Like, I was really feeling myself that I had this job. Very proud of myself, very excited, right? And I did get to do really cool stuff in the job. I got to wrench on the motorcycles. I got to change oil. I got to drive around a forklift, right? I got to even ride motorcycles for my job. It was really fun. I loved everything about it, and I also loved the people that I worked with. The people that I worked with were incredible. We were constantly meeting new people, great people working by my side. Everything was great. And one day there was this new person who I hadn't seen before coming into the garage. And I like came with the same energy like always, yo, what's good? But something kind of felt off. Like the vibe just wasn't quite there. I didn't know what it was, but it ended up in this like kind of stare down of like I approached like super happy, like, oh. And then we're just locked eyes like. And then he walks away. And that was it. And so I thought, oh, he's just kind of shy. I guess that's cool. And my manager comes and gets me. He's like, yo, Alex. And this was actually New Year's Day, actually. So my manager gets me. I'm like, Joey, Happy New Year. He's like, hey, Alex, we decided to let you go. You're fired. I said, huh? I said, excuse me? He says, yeah, we decided to let you go. You're fired. I said, Joey, it's one thing to fire me. You got me out here looking at a dude who is doing my job, the job that I've done for 5 months right here, and this is my replacement. And that's exactly what happened. Has anyone ever been fired in this house? Yes, one person, come on. I feel so alone right now. I thought more people would be unsuccessful in their lives and I would feel better about who I am. No one's been fired. Yeah, come on.
I didn't know. You didn't tell me.
Me neither. Same thing happened, yes. Literally, we're gonna connect after this because I still have PTSD and trauma from it. Yep, we're gonna chat. So not only was I fired, but I'm looking at a man who was literally there doing my job for me, right? That's so demoralizing, that's so bad. That would be like if I was supposed to preach tonight and I walked up and there's just someone up here preaching, like doing my job better than me. I just like, I guess I'll just go home then. It's a really depressing feeling actually. So after that, I was really sad. I got in my car, I didn't know where to go. I drove to KFC. I got a bunch of chicken, I ate it all, and then I took a nap in the backseat of my car. We all have our coping strategies. That was mine. And as funny as a story as that is, to be honest, it actually did wound me a little bit. Because now I'm left with this, I'm gonna say lie, but something that feels like a truth sometimes is hard to call a lie. Now I'm left with this thing that I'm dealing with of like, well, if I step out in faith again, or if I do something that I know I'm kind of low-key, not really cut out for it, but I'm gonna try it anyway, maybe I'm just not gonna be good enough again. Or maybe there's just gonna be another dude who just does it better than me, and they're just gonna get him and just kind of shoo me away. Maybe I'll be rejected. Maybe I won't be good enough. And the thing is, I don't think maybe I'm the only one that has experienced that, whether or not I'm the only one who's been fired, me and you and Mike, right? I'm sure some of us can relate to that. And if I decided to believe those lies about myself, then I would have really missed out on a very critical point. That's actually our second point of the night. Let's do it, Sam. That courage can create beautiful stories. If I chose to believe that lie, I would have missed out on the fact that courage can create beautiful stories. Because it takes courage to bring about redemption. And I can tell you something about the Lord tonight. The Lord is all about redemption. Amen? Thank you. That's so good. I love it. I want to let us know tonight that we actually step into dangerous places all the time. We step into dangerous places a lot more often than we think. And I think we actually have the tendency of sleeping on ourselves when we do that. We compare ourselves to other people and like, I'm not that courageous. I don't really do anything. I just show up. I'm not courageous. I know, it's not me. It couldn't be me. I'm not that courageous. And I want to tell you, you are more courageous than you think you are. You step into danger more often than you think you do. And so that makes you dangerous. You're more dangerous than you think you are. And a critical way of understanding that is that what's dangerous for you might not actually be what's dangerous for someone else. We face different dangers here in the room. And I'm going to give us a couple of tangible examples, so hopefully we can we can grasp onto what I'm telling you. Let's take this room as an example. This is a fairly large room filled with a whole bunch of people who, for the most part, know one another at least a little bit. And some of us don't think twice about stepping into a room like Tuesday night at the inn. But others of us actually do think a lot about it, and it's really hard for us to step into a place like this because of our social anxiety, right? So some people, it takes an immense amount of courage to step into this room on Tuesday night. Maybe you drive a car to the inn. Maybe you don't enjoy the same luxury that I, myself, and a bunch of us also enjoy, and that we live in walking distance to this place, so we just get to kind of hop on over. Maybe you drive a car to the inn. If that's you, thank you for commuting to the inn. That takes courage, because high key, driving a car is one of the most dangerous things you can do, right? Yes, especially if you drive like me. It's very dangerous. So thank you for commuting over to the inn. That's a dangerous thing to do. Maybe you live in an environment where there aren't actually a ton of Christians with you. So maybe when you say, or your roommate might say, hey, what are you doing tonight? And you're like, I'm going to the inn. And they kind of give you that look like, have fun, right? Just like a little bit of sass. Like there's not support. Maybe we don't actually have that because we don't live in a community with other Christians. And if that's you, that takes a lot of courage to decide to still come into the space. That's very courageous. I want to give a huge shout out to the people who actually didn't grow up in faith. I think it takes so much courage to step into these kind of places if you didn't grow up in them. I want to let you know, I admire your courage so much. If that's you and you say to yourself, I don't actually know that many Bible stories. Or when they open up the Bible and they read, I have no idea what's going on. I didn't grow up hearing this. Or when the worship team is up here and they're killing it and I love it, but I can't ever really sing along. This is hard for me. I didn't grow up doing that. If that's you, I want to let you know that it takes so much courage to step into those spaces. You're more dangerous than you think you are. If you're a person of color and you've stepped into this room, it takes an immense amount of courage to step into spaces that maybe historically haven't represented you the way that you should have been represented. So to step into a space where you have to ask yourself, am I gonna have to compromise the integrity of who I am, my own unique identity to fit into this place? If you have to ask yourself that question when you step into Tuesday night, that takes so much courage, so much courage. You're more dangerous than you think you are. And if you've ever been hurt by the church, like we said earlier, when we step into places that are either new to us or places where we've actually been wounded in the past. If you've been hurt in a space like this before and still you decide to step in, there's no words to describe the amount of courage that you have in doing that. You're more courageous than you think you are. And through it all, just like God was with Joshua, God is with us as well. And through it all, your courage can create something beautiful. But here's the kicker. We have to choose it. We have to choose to be courageous. God was only one part of the equation. God said, Joshua, I'm with you, baby. Be strong, be courageous. We're going to do this together. Joshua very easily could have told God, thank you. I'm very flattered that you see that in me, but I don't know if I can replace, I don't know if I could be the next Michelle. I don't know. We've been wandering around the desert for 40 years. I remember the way that people would talk about Moses kind of behind his back. And even though he was this great leader, it was a really heavy burden that he carried to lead the people. I think I'm good, actually. I'm going to walk this way, away from what the Lord is inviting us into. It's still something that we have to choose. And it doesn't mean that we have to be perfect. I have walked the other way too. I have done that so much in my life where there's been something hard for me to face. And I've said, I think I'm good, actually. I'm going to go this way. And I've numbed. And I've tried to forget and run away from and bury, but I can tell you that has never led me anywhere positive in my life. That actually finding the courage to confront those things is how you conquer them. And running from them is just prolonging it. I want to give a caveat. What I'm not saying is that when you face danger, you need to run toward the danger. That's what I'm not saying. I want to communicate really clearly when I say this. There's a little thing in our brain, it's called our amygdala, and it is like our danger fear sensor. And when it's going off and it lets us know, hey, this is actually really dangerous territory, then it would be a really appropriate time to run the other direction, okay? Just so we're on the same page, I want to say that. I have another caveat. Sometimes it actually takes just as much courage to step away as it does to move toward. Sometimes it takes just as much courage to step away. But the thing that I'm trying to help us see here is that we face danger way more often than we think we do. And we're more courageous than we give ourselves credit for. But we run back, don't we? We're on that path with the Lord, and things get really hard. And we're like, I'm going this way. And it's okay if that's you. We are not the only ones that do this. The Israelites themselves, God's chosen people, actually did this too. Sam, would you be a gentleman and put up the next scripture and not a picture of my wife? Thank you so much. Okay. Context for this. That whole big miracle where the sea parted and we had the old guy, Moses, up here looking really cool, and just that happened in chapter 14. This is chapter 16. This literally just happened. We're going to pick it up. The whole Israelite community set out from Elim and came to the desert of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month after they had come out of Egypt, literally right after. In the desert, the whole community grumbled against Moses and Aaron. The Israelites said to them, "If only we had died by the Lord's hand in Egypt." That's my Israelite voice. "There we sat around pots of meat and ate all the food we wanted. But you've brought us out into this desert to starve this entire assembly to death." Then the Lord said to Moses, "I will rain down bread from heaven for you. The people are to go out each day and gather enough for that day. In this way, I will test them and see whether they will follow my instructions. And on the sixth day, they are to prepare what they bring in, and that is to be twice as much as they gather on the other days." So Moses and Aaron said to all the Israelites, "In the evening you will know that it was the Lord who brought you out of Egypt." So 2 chapters after they are no longer slaves, no longer held captive in Egypt, they are already wanting to go back to Egypt. Already. Sam, hit the next one for me. Oh my gosh. We're going to have to talk after Sam. While they complained, did you notice something about the Lord? He wasn't actually upset that they complained. He actually just met their need and said, "Okay, you're so hungry. You want the good food from Egypt. I'll take care of you. I will literally make bread fall from the sky." Come on. That's some God stuff if I've ever heard it, right? That's provision from the Lord to say, "Hey, don't worry, I got you. I'm just going to make it happen." That's what the Lord does. And so here they are, a little bit later, complaining about the Lord's provision. The rabble with them began to crave other food. And again, the Israelites started wailing and said, "If only we had meat to eat. We remember the fish we ate in Egypt at no cost. Also the cucumbers, melons, leeks, onions, and garlic. But now we've lost our appetite. We never see anything but this manna." Thank you, Sam. We fear to leave because we cling to what we have come to know, to what makes us comfortable, even if it wasn't actually beneficial for us. If it's become comfortable and it's become familiar, it's really hard for us to leave. It's really difficult. Even if, like the Israelites, we were in bondage to it, it's still really hard to leave. We see this play out sometimes in toxic relationships. We know we should leave, and we know we deserve better. But sometimes it's really difficult to get out of a bad place when it's become a familiar place. And even in a really weird way, a comfortable place, because it's what we've grown accustomed to. But courage is greater than comfort. And it takes a significant amount of courage to also stay in the middle of what the Lord is doing in our lives, the good things the Lord is doing in our lives. Similar to the Israelites, we can have a tendency to want to run back when things get really difficult. This is what makes change so difficult. When we're in a brand new environment, remember the 2 ways that emotional, relational danger happens. New territory, change, that's one of them. This makes change so hard, okay? When we set out for something new, we want to correct our behavior and do something different, or we want to apply to a new major, or we're in a new relationship, or we move to a new state after we graduate, and we're like, yeah, I feel so good about this change. And so we leave the old and head for the new. But when we get in kind of the middle area, where we can't really see the horizon of where we came from, and we also can't see the horizon of where we're headed, it can actually get really hard to stay present and stay faithful in that really long, arduous, boring, not glamorous, not sexy middle of our story. And in those moments, it can be really easy to do what the Israelites did and just be like, I think I want to go back to Egypt, actually. I think I'd rather go back to being a slave, to be honest. I mean, we had good food. Lord, I know you got that for me, but I think I'm going to move in this other direction. Let's take this a step deeper. We live in a society that is obsessed, absolutely obsessed with instant gratification. Everything's about us and meeting our desires in the moment as soon as it happens. And so that makes it actually really difficult to invest in anything long-term, to the point that that's actually countercultural in the society that we live in now. Everything around you is telling you, do what's best for you. But I want to tell you something. That actually doesn't create beautiful stories. Comfort doesn't really create beautiful stories. Comfort doesn't leave legacies. Courage leaves legacies. You're not going to be telling your grandkids about the time that you spent all night long watching whatever your favorite show on Netflix is and you just kind of chilled, right? There's definitely a place for that. There's a place for comfort. But if we orient our lives around comfort and we orient our lives around our own satisfaction, then it can become really difficult to actually stay faithful and steadfast to the plan that the Lord has for us and orient our lives around courage. I showed you, well, Sam has showed you every photo I've given him of Ash and I, my wife and I. I think there's one more, though. I can't remember if he showed it. This one. Yeah. This is a photo from our wedding. I really love this photo. It's one of my favorite photos of all time. And I want to talk about it in a minute. You see this photo, and I'm newly married, and I'm so happy to be married to Ashley. It's my favorite thing about life. But I want to let you know, that didn't just happen overnight. I did not get to the promised land in my life or get to enjoy this really incredible aspect of what makes life so beautiful without staying steadfast and really faithful in the middle of our story. There are times where both Ash and I could have tapped out and said, this is getting really hard. We did long distance for years, literal years, and it was so difficult, and it would have been so easy, and both of us almost did on different occasions say, I think I'm good, actually. I'm not really getting enough out of this. I don't really get to hang out with you, right? We're miscommunicating or we're fighting and we do that over distance. We don't even get to have any fun together. But over here, I could just be present and whatever else I'm gonna be present in, I think I'm good. I think I'm gonna go this way now. And that would have been so easy to do. But I wanna tell you that I couldn't have got to this moment without deciding to be courageous and to say, Lord, I know I'm not really enjoying the fruit of too much stuff that's happening right now, but I'm gonna be diligent and I'm gonna be faithful and I'm gonna stay right here where I am. And that's gonna lead me to what the Lord has for me in my life. And there's another really critical piece of that. If you look, Ash and I are not the only ones in this photo. We're quite literally on the shoulders of other people. And that's a message that I think is really important, that I could not have on my own said, you know what, Lord? I got this. I'm staying right here, baby. I don't care what happens. I would have failed and gone the other way like I have before. I needed people with me in my life to help me stay in the really hard spot in the middle. Our wedding was the most epic celebration of my life because the people that helped us while we were in the middle, the people that when we thought about turning away said, no, let's go this way. Those people are the people that we got to celebrate that night with. Those are the people that we get to celebrate and do life with. And that's a really beautiful thing that all of us can participate in. Because yes, courage conquers comfort, but it's really hard to do it on your own. You're more courageous than you think you are, but you can't do it by yourself. But there's good news. Not only is God with you, the same way he was with Joshua and the Israelites, but this community is with you. I can tell you right now that this is a community. I'm so proud to be a part of this community because this is a community that if you're walking this way, people will walk with you and validate that. If things have been hard for you in life and life is kind of smacking you around a little bit and you're walking back this way, you will not walk by yourself in this community. And I love that. I'm so proud of it. If life has knocked you down and you're on your knees and you're tired and you can't walk either way, this is a community where people will sit down with you. And that's the most beautiful thing. And I think it's a huge reason why a lot of us are here, because it's actually really hard to find people that are willing to sit with you. And that's what this community is about. And we're also people who help pick each other up. And then we walk in the direction that the Lord has prepared for us. We walk in the direction of our destiny, our greatness, the things that actually take courage because they're worth being courageous for. And when we walk that way, not only do we get to celebrate the heck out of one another, when we make it and we have those promised land moments, we love that, we get to celebrate the progress. That's something I want us to key in on. As beautiful as this celebration is, it doesn't happen without staying in the hard work of the middle. And that's something you can't do by yourself. You have to do it with other people. And you're in luck because you're sitting in a room full of them. People who will be with you in the hard work of the journey. That's something we're going to highlight as a part of our last point for the night, that this community will be with you in the hard work of the middle. We're going to celebrate that because courage is contagious. Courage is contagious. I love everything about this community so much. I love my role as the student leadership coordinator. As the student leadership coordinator, it's very fun because leadership is essentially an opportunity to invite you to own this community. As Mia said earlier, it's an opportunity for you to actually feel invited into something bigger than yourself while also bringing your full self to the table. It's this really beautiful thing where you get to actually be activated in the things that make you you and simultaneously contribute to something bigger than you. And that's a really beautiful thing to be a part of. We get to have a lot of fun together. We get to know one another more. And we get to administer justice, not only in this community, but also in communities all over the world, like in Colombia and the Dominican Republic and in Nepal and in the Philippines and in New York City. These are just some of the places that we have been and are going to within the span of a year. That's a really beautiful thing to be a part of in this community as a student leader. But I want to take a minute to remind you. Allow me to narrate a quick reflection on where this community has been in the last, let's say, year and a half to 2 years. COVID has been so hard. And this community, just like a lot of other communities, was knocked on its feet by COVID. We weren't actually meeting in person like this for a really long time. We were on Zoom. And as you know, this is a really special thing that we get to all contribute to and be a part of. And as awesome as Zoom can be as a tool to connect with one another over distance, you can't really replicate this on Zoom. It's really difficult. But there were people who decided to press in anyway. There were people who decided, I don't really care that this is really difficult. It's all we got right now, and we need one another. We're going to be with each other in the hard work of the middle of this pandemic. And that's the most beautiful thing ever. And if you were like me and you weren't actually around the in community during the thick of the pandemic, like my wife and I were living in California at the time, that doesn't actually discount you from deciding to step into this community. Your courage has been contagious to help rebuild and make this community exactly what it is right now that we're stepping into. I think it's an important reminder because it's something that we really easily can take for granted. This space, this community did not look this way a year ago. This space and this community did not look this way 9 months ago. And the people in this room are the ones who are responsible for that. Your courage has been so contagious to rebuild this community. It's been everything. COVID was really difficult. As a student leadership coordinator, I came back up to Seattle and we were tasked with the opportunity to plan the student leadership retreat. And we've done some really cool things for student leadership retreat. And I can tell you that in the fall, Lord willing, we're going to do something really, really cool for student leadership retreat. But do you know what we did like my first week on the job for the student leadership retreat? We went to the park and played kickball. That's literally what we did. We couldn't have food. We had to be outdoors. There wasn't a whole lot else to do. We played kickball, and that was our retreat. And we got to know each other a little bit. We were present playing kickball with one another in the seemingly boring, not that glamorous middle of what was going on. And now we've progressed a little bit out of the middle and into the spotlight. You like that? Into That was so good. Into what the Lord has for us a little bit. So now literally the light is coming on a little bit, right? People are starting to come back. We've had baptisms happen in this space, which is amazing. We've seen people sign up to go to spring break trips, right? We had the Colombia trip. We had the Dominican Republic trip. We had a lot of fun things happen, and people are starting to come alive in their faith and feel at home, not only here in this space, but across the street at Palmer, okay? And that's so critical. This is just a little by the way. There are people who wouldn't ever really feel comfortable to step into this space Tuesday night because just of like a little bit of maybe what it symbolizes of a church, or maybe people who have experienced some of the church hurt that we alluded to earlier, who are totally comfortable stepping into a coffee shop space because that's a little less intimidating. And so those of us who give our time and are courageous enough to find margin in our lives, to serve at Palmer, whether you're a barista or whether you're someone who just actually finds capacity while you're doing homework, to look up from your laptop and just ask someone, hey, what's going on? How's it going? We live in Seattle. That doesn't happen. That's so rare. People keep to themselves. That is the most beautiful, courageous thing you can do, is to have time to actually interact with someone else in your day. And so it's not only this space that's really contagious with courage. It's Palmer House. That's seeping into people's living environments. That's the reason why people have felt comfortable to bring friends into this space, because they know, and you can kind of sense it, that this is a space where not only will you be celebrated so well, not only will you be present with it when you're struggling and you're on this side, but that even in the hard work of the middle, when not that much is happening, people are going to be present with you. And that takes so much courage. I want to give another special shout out to the upperclassmen, the juniors and seniors in the room. The juniors and seniors, I want to say, your college experience has been kind of screwed. I'm trying to think of like a more articulate word. Not as desirable, or the way you maybe would have pictured. And you very easily could have said, when UW or SPU or wherever it is that you go to school decided to come back in person, you could have really easily just said, I kind of want to invest in community, but I'm good actually. It's been super hard for me. I think I'm going to go this way. You would have been really valid in doing that. The pandemic was really hard. Your feelings are valid. But instead, the juniors and seniors decided, I think I actually want to press into something a little bit bigger than myself. I actually think I want to leave a legacy. Even if I'm a senior and I'm not going to be around next year, I want to be a part of building this community up again. So I'm going to stay present in the middle. I'm going to go play kickball in the dirt, and that's going to be our retreat. If that's a way for me to get to know the people around me and start to serve and start to bring in people from the community who aren't a part of this space and be inclusive and actually help people who are really struggling coming back into life post-pandemic, and struggle with anxiety and depression and struggle in their faith and wonder if they're enough or if they came into this space where they feel loved or seen or accepted. Thank you, juniors and seniors. Thank you so much for saying yes when you really easily could have said no. Thank you. That courage is contagious. If you're a freshman or a sophomore in the house right now, high school was really wild for you, huh? Yeah, crazy time to be a high schooler. I was actually a high school director when I was in Costa Mesa, California, and that was a really crazy time to be with high school students. So I know just a little bit, not in a way that I lived it personally, but in a way that I was able to shepherd people through, the high school was really hard. So when you came to college, you could have very easily said, I might still have to wear a mask, but at least we're doing stuff in person. I don't have time for like other people. I'm trying to go have as much fun as I can possibly have because I didn't get to do that in high school, so I'm going this way. But instead, you kind of put two and two together when you came into the space and you're like, hold on, wait a minute. This community is actually pretty fun too. And maybe, if I press in a little bit, I can have some fun, but also contribute to something bigger than me. And I can actually also be inclusive and invite people who are really struggling into a space like the Inn. And that courage has been so contagious. Thank you. Student leaders in the room, put the team on your back. What a year you have had. Thank you so much for the courage. You can give it up for the student leaders in the room. Yes. Yee hallelujah to the student leaders. Because this, I would say, is maybe the toughest year to have ever been a student leader. Because there actually wasn't this big thing that you're like, I'm going to do this for this reason. I can't wait to get the shine and glory of being a leader in this community. Instead, you were willing to do the hard work of rebuilding in the middle and putting other people on and serving other people. And that courage brings freedom for everyone in this room. And I'm speaking in generalities a bit, but we're actually going to end this night speaking in specifics. And I want to highlight some of the voices in this room who I'm speaking of right now, who have been so courageous that you have made this space the special place that it is. So this is how this is going to work. If you hear your name, I want you to receive. If you don't hear your name, I want you to celebrate the person who's receiving like it's their birthday. Can we do that? Okay, all right. We're going to get going. Riley Maloney. This is so fun. I've seen Riley show tremendous courage. Where's Riley? I just saw him. I've seen you show tremendous courage in this community by the ways that you've been present in the hard work of the middle. The way that you decided to say yes to the opportunities that the Lord has called you into instead of turning away, even when that's been for really enticing, really incredible other opportunities that you've decided to stay present, that takes so much courage. And that's so contagious and it's so beautiful. So thank you for being so courageous. Your courage, Riley, has made this community a braver place. Thank you. Where's Mayra? Mayra, hey! Wow. We're starting with the front row. This is fun. I didn't do this on purpose. This is so good. Mayra, the courage that you've shown in stepping into this community as a new person has made other people really comfortable to step in as new people too. And that's really powerful and really beautiful. And you help bring the power of the Holy Spirit in this place, Mayra. Mayra, I'm not even finished. Mayra decided to say yes to going on our Colombia trip, the spring break. And then just decided, well, while I'm there, I might as well put the team on my back and become the translator. Oh, I'm knocking over stuff. Become the translator for our team and also put herself in situations that required an immense amount of courage. Like leading worship in front of all these people who she did not know, who maybe I wasn't there, who could have been intimidating, or maybe people who have this connotation for being dangerous people or people we don't associate with because of the things they've done. Here's Mayra leading them in worship, right? That's so beautiful and it takes so much courage. And the courage that you have has made this community better. Mayra, your courage has made this community more joyful. Speaking of Colombia, where's Monea? Aye, back row. Back row. I was always a back row person too, so I feel that. Monea also joined in on the adventure to Colombia. And Monea, I still remember the night that you came up to me. I'm pretty sure it was your first night ever at the inn. And Monea asked, hey, can I come on a spring break trip? And at this point, we had a deadline. It was a deadline. And this was a little bit past that deadline. And so actually initially, I had a logistical response in my mind prepared. We have this deadline, whatever. But I don't actually think logistically at the forefront of my mind. I think relationally. So I'm absolutely, Monea, 1,000%. Well, we got you. Don't worry. And so then I was oh gosh, I got to find a way to make it happen. And Monea made it happen. And Monea found the right people she needed to talk to get involved in our Colombia trip. And Monea was so determined, in fact, to get to Colombia that even after she misplaced her passport, it happens. We misplace things. Passport's a big deal, though, Monea. Keep an eye on that. Just have a space for it. I don't. Even after misplacing her passport and then finding her passport, thank you, Jesus. Yes. Monea decided to press into a wild adventure and say yes to the Lord. Even after the rest of the team flew out because they had their passports on time and they were ready to roll, Monea. And this is actually, I'm putting you on Monea. Monea had enough courage to say, I think I still want to go. I very easily could have tapped out and said, well, I guess maybe I just will stay home or do something else for spring break. But even after, Monet decided to press in and to go make a huge impact on the team and the people that you served in Colombia. Monet, your courage makes this community more adventurous. Matthew Kelligrew. Oh, another front rower. Yes. Matthew, you're such a gangster in my mind. You're just so cool to me. I want to highlight you. And again, this is something I want to share for Matthew, but then for everything that I'm sharing has been okayed to share by the people who I'm speaking to. And Matthew has given me permission, just like everyone else, to share this, that Matthew, you're courageous for so many reasons, but I specifically wanted to highlight the situation with the lighthouse, where Matthew applied to be the manager at the house that he lives in, and actually didn't get the position. But Matthew decided that instead of really easily being like, okay, well, I tried, I'm out. Matthew decided to turn around and say, well, I want to invest regardless. I'm here in the middle regardless. That takes so much courage. So thank you for what you did, because that stuff is contagious. And these are in Matthew's own words about your courage. And this may not have anything specifically to do with the house. I just wanted to shout you out. But in Matthew's own words, I've changed from being filled with shame and wondering if people actually like me to someone who knows God's love and isn't afraid to be my true self. Amen. Matthew, your courage makes this community more faithful. Julia Williams. Yeah. Julia, how many people did you know before you came to the DR, like as a part of our community? 3. Nice. 3. Out of this entire room, Julia knew 3 people and decided that nonetheless, she was going to sign up, as a senior, that she was going to sign up for our trip to the Dominican Republic. Knowing 3 people. That took so much courage, Julia. And it was a pleasure to get to know you in the DR. And you helped make the DR trip so fun and so enjoyable and so impactful for the people we served and the people around you. It would have not been the same trip without you. And it's so beautiful to see you a part of this community now with the courage that it took to step in when you knew 3 people. Julia, your courage not only made our trip to the DR, but also makes this community brighter. Abby Strand. Where's Abby? Hey. Nice. That's a great seat. Very slept on part of the room right there, actually. Good stuff. Abby, your courage to join our student intern team as a first connection point to plug into this community is honestly one of the coolest things that I've experienced in this year as a student leadership coordinator. It's seriously the coolest thing that you decided. You know what? Not only do I want to be a part of this community, I want to be a part of shaping this community and also serving the people who come into this community. When I connected with Abby at the tail end of the summer, when I had accepted the role, I didn't actually know Abby, and she was texting me, and she was like, I was like, hey, what are you interested in, right? Like, what roles would you want to be on? What leadership teams are intriguing to you? As a student intern, what are some of the things you want to see happen in the community? And Abby just says, honestly, we'll talk about all that. I just really want to serve. And coming out of the pandemic, like, that was the most courageous thing you could have told me. So, like, I'm just cool to be in the middle with people and help bring them in. So thank you for your courage, Abby. I want to read, I think I have something from you as well. In Abby's own words, courage has allowed me a front row seat to what God is doing rather than being on the outside looking in. AKA being a part of this community rather than how I felt in all the time before. I've changed from feeling unqualified to qualified, and have changed from feeling unworthy to chosen and called because of my courage in this community. Abby, your courage makes this community feel more chosen. Thank you. Andrew Dime. Oh, man. Woo. Yes. Andrew Dime is one of my favorite cowboys. Yeehaw, hallelujah. He also serves on our student intern team and is one of the most selfless dudes. I'm trying, bro, I promise. That's so funny. Is one of the most selfless dudes I know. Serves people left and right. And almost every event that we've had in the community, Andrew's been there in the background, making sure that it runs smoothly. Been there flipping burgers so that other people can eat. Has been there to make stuff happen behind the scenes without really receiving too much credit or glory or praise for it. But this is your moment, Don. We're really grateful for you in this community. I'm really grateful for the way that you decided to step in to this community when you really easily could have said, no, actually, I'm going to go this way. And there's one thing in particular I want to highlight about Dime. Dime has decided to honor people of color in this space by making himself feel less comfortable so that people of color can feel more comfortable and more included. That is such a beautiful gift to the people around you, Dime, and it's a beautiful way to lead. So thank you for being so courageous. Your courage has made this community more inclusive. Taryn, oh, yes. I love the back row. Taryn stepped into this community not knowing anyone, and Taryn got plugged in to the community through our Christmas trip to New York City. And I actually have something that I just want to read. This is from Taryn, and again, I have the okay to read this, but I just want to share her own account of her personal courage and the way that this community has helped impact that. Taryn says, it took a lot of courage for me to go to New York City first because I just transferred here in September and I signed up for the trip not knowing any of the people who were going at all. Wild. So courageous. Also, I have an anxiety disorder and a chronic illness, and so going across the country with strangers, not having the comfort items that I usually use, and stepping into a lot of unknowns was really scary for me. I honestly didn't think I would be able to do it. But I felt really called to do it, and I really just wanted to trust that God would give me and my body the strength to overcome the challenges. Come on. Going on that trip was probably the best thing I could have done because the amount of love I felt by the group of people who went was more than I'd ever felt before. They supported me through every up and down, the middle, and they really encouraged me. I've never gotten that from people before. And so coming back to this community, I wanted to be so much more involved because the people have reminded me every day of the way that they love. And I wanted to give that same love to others as well and share my story. And so that's why I joined the Palmer House team as a barista. My faith is now surrounded by a community of love, and it's so awesome. I love this. God didn't waste all the courage it took me to be here every day because him bringing me to Seattle was the absolute best blessing I could have asked for. Taryn, your courage make this community so much more dynamic. It's incredible. I'm glad you're here, Taryn. Lastly, we're going out with a banger. Andrew Shin. Oh, the guy. Andrew came to the inn once his freshman year and says that he didn't have the courage to introduce himself to others. That's real, bro. That's real. In his own words, he says, as time went on, I realized God was pulling me toward this community. I truly believe that he gave me the courage to become more confident socially and spiritually. And so now today, when I see someone who's new or alone, I try to reach out because I know how tough it can be to transition into a new community. Where are you at, Andrew? Oh, hey, back row. Come on. I'm looking over here, bro. You shout me out, my guy. Andrew, your courage has made this community more confident. So thank you. I'm glad you're a part of it. Worship band, feel free to come up. This room is full of stories just like the ones that we just heard. I encourage you to get to know the people around you. You're gonna find that the courage in this room is indeed very contagious. So why are we talking about all of this? Because sometimes the reminder that we're more courageous than we think is so important. That God is with us. And that whether we find ourselves running from something or in the hard work of the middle, we can't do it alone. Again, danger looks different for all of us. So whatever it is for you, my hope is that you would continue to press in to courage by showing up, by serving, by being present in your own journey and trusting that other people will be present in that space with you. And also being present for other people in the same way. Because God is with us, people. And we cannot get to the promised land and the things that he has for us in our lives without stepping into courage. So how are we feeling tonight? Hey, I love it. Thank you.